Shoreline and order on June 17th. Can we stamp the flag, please? Pledge. You know, that thing.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amy, could you take roll for us, please?
Yes, good evening, Commissioner Fisher,
Here.
Commissioner Hovland,
Yeah.
Commissioner Callahan, Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Here.
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Chief Cowan,
Here.
Legal Counsel Brian Snur,
Here.
and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
Thank you. I see no public online or here. So we'll continue. Approval of the past minutes from May 20th. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that we accept them as submitted. Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Webster and seconded by Commissioner Pratt. Any comments, changes, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, on to our meeting tonight. Chief Cowan has sent us all a cost analysis for merging accounts, so we'll turn it over to Chief Cowan.
Thank you. Amy, I'm gonna take control. Okay, so, in your packet. I wonder if I can zoom in on both for you. Of course, it won't. Oh, it will. I wanted to walk there. So this is a very gross analysis of this year. And because we don't know what next year is going to be, especially with COLAs and what CPI is and et cetera. But I wanted to try and get a snapshot of what this year looks like to give you an apples to apples as much as I can comparison of what it would be looking like under an RFA. And so there are some assumptions in this and so forth, and so I'll walk you through it, and then I can kind of show you some of the options that we're looking at and so forth. But what I basically did is I took, this is where we sit today, you know, in 2024 with the budgets that have been approved, et cetera, from both North Shore and Shoreline. And then this is, you know, what it would look like if we were combined. And so so the budget, this is the Shoreline budget at 36.9, the North Shore budget, the separated Board of Commissioners North Shore budget. Okay, because most of the costs are embedded in the Shoreline budget, except for the board specific budget. This is our assessed valuation. This is North Shore's assessed valuation. This is the equivalent levy rates that are going on. And these are the revenues generated by the levy and the fire benefit charge. And this is where you have to follow bouncing ball for a little bit. So the North Shore payment actually isn't 13.6 million because there's a deduction with the revenues gained by GMT, BLS transports, et cetera. And that's what's reflected down here at 1.6 million. So you take that off the 13 million, and that's why, if you recall, the payment from North Shore to Shoreline is about 12 million. Still with me? Okay. And I'm going to go through this, but if you have any questions or you need me to slow down and read, you review something, please let me know. So appeals and fees, that's, what we pay for fire benefit charge appeals, the fees to King County to get the money, et cetera. And that's estimated. That's probably fairly accurate, but it's estimated because we don't know exactly how much the appeals will deduct and so forth. This is the Shoreline contracts. we have other things besides GMT and BLS transports. We have contracts built in for a lot of our like DHS, DOT, other metro, other government agencies and so forth. But the total is about 6.2 million. This is at 1.6 million. And the reason why it's showing as a negative is because it needs to be a negative off the 13 million to make things work. Okay. What this all means is that we have, this is from up here, the 36.9, and our revenues are here with the, we're in the red a little bit, by 59,000 for this year. Okay. So moving to the RFA, what I did is I went through, and there's notes here to kind of help explain some of this. I went through the North Shore budget and I took out the things that we would gain some of those more efficiencies in coming together, like decreases in insurance. We're not going to save anything on the commissioners because I had actually about 240,000, I think, originally, because we were going from 5 and 5 to 4 and 3 or whatever we were going to do. But since we're 5 and 5 and going to 10, there isn't any real savings in the commissioner side of it. There are some savings with insurance. I put some savings with legal fees. There's about $172,000 as I went through each of the line items where I pulled out, and some of these are assumptions because some of it was 100% of that line item and some of it was a portion of that line item. And in the whole scheme of things, it's really not that much. We're talking about $172,000 in a $37 million budget. So. But that's where that 172,000 comes from. There will be some additional MIH savings of another 112 in 2026. I did not include that because that's further out, but I just wanted to identify that there is some MIH involvement in these budgets as well.
How would that work, Chief? How would you capture savings with the MIH program?
Well, because first of all, they're gonna be fully funding it. Assuming the EMS levy goes through and everything goes the way it is, that we're all gonna have some savings in that. And we're starting to get more subsidizing from other places, so it's a moving target. I didn't put any savings in there now because there's a lot of balls in the air on how things are.
I see. So you're gonna be getting more money from the county, which is gonna offset the expenses that you're putting in. Okay.
Right, so there will be some savings coming, more savings, and we're also looking at other ways of generating revenues to fund the MIH program. So, but I didn't include any savings. I just wanted to note that for the future because I think that's something that's kind of cool coming.
So Chief, backing up to the savings from Shoreline.
There's no savings from Shoreline.
Or the figures from Shoreline, excuse me, the 36. Did that include medics, ALS?
No, oh, good point. I'm sorry. This is all on the suppression side.
Okay.
Thank you. I just blurred right past that. This has nothing to do with the max because that is a different budget. It's a different revenues, it's different everything. And that's really not impacted at all by an RFA. Okay, thank you.
So just the MIH that's mental health for you.
Mobile integrated healthcare.
Right. Okay. Just they're throwing, you guys probably acronyms or.
Yeah, I'm full of a lot of things. One of those acronyms. Okay, so that's an estimated overall budget. This is our combined AV. And I'll skip this for now, because that it's just a number I put in. This would be our combined fire levy and fire benefit charge revenues. There is no payment from North Shore because we're all combined. I estimate about 185,000. It's going to go up to about 185,000. Again, this is an estimate. So this is one of the assumptions on King County costs and appeals. And then I combined our other revenues together. So the 6.2 and the 1.6 goes 7.8. And because now there isn't the offset, it's a positive number in this formula. And so what that does is we have this number, the 37.2 million, and I basically created this number to generate something close to, net zero. So you know, I could put in $13 and, you know, that's what it gives a surplus. So I just played with that number until I got it to a near net zero. So originally, I freaked out a little bit. Because I'm looking at this going, how can it be less than what North Shore is paying now? And that's why I wanted to explain this to you, because, and I had Dawn look at all this too. I'm like, Dawn, I mean, I know there's some things in here that, would cause this to be less. The biggest reason that I can come up with is because, remember that North Shore, we dropped all the way to 86 cents in equivalent levy rate, but we had to bump it back up because of how short we were with the capital expenses. So I would argue that the $1.13 that we're at now is probably higher than it would be. And now you understand we're in 2024, we're still going to be higher in 2025 and maybe even a little bit in 2026, but it's higher than it would normally be if everything was equalized. It probably needs to be in that $5 to $10 range. If we had properly funded, instead of me going too aggressively and leaning things out. Well, I didn't know what the capital expenses were going to be too, but we dropped it too far in 86 to 86 cents. It should have been in that $1 to $1.10. It probably, and for 2024, it probably would be if we had properly funded in that $5 range, or maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. So the only thing I can tell you is that $1.13 and dropping to $1.11, it looks weird, and that's why, is because we are catching up with the capital cost side of things, and that's why the equivalent levy rate, it looks like it's dropped, or it is dropping, but it would actually be somewhere probably in that $5 to $10 range if we were really, looking at it. Still with me? Okay, so $1.11. So it would be a savings from where North Shore is now. But again, if we were not to do the RFA, in a couple of years, we would be down lower anyway in North Shore. All right. So then there's some other things. This is really where board input would be really great to have. I'll walk through some of our potential savings on reserve funds and so forth. There's a savings from loss of revenue. There's an extra $160,000 in the North Shore reserves that wouldn't be needed. Shoreline's carrying $700,000 in addition to 25% of the annual expenses. North Shore is carrying $300,000 in addition to the 25%. So we could probably save another, and if we said we're going to decrease to 25% plus 700,000, we have talked about this of dropping it to 500,000. We could even drop it to 500,000 and save more, but even at this, we'd save 340,000 in that. The left one liabilities, I think I shared with the North Shore board that I thought we were putting too much into that. You might recall that last year when we were doing the budget. Don and I looked at this. We both looked at this. This is a philosophical, fundamental decision on what the model needs to be. Shoreline looks at our left one liabilities and there's a GASB, there's a formula that the state auditor's office or actual office suggests that you follow, and we follow that. And they actually suggest doing it for 3 years. And so, and I can show you the computation if you like, but we put our left one liabilities, we have, I think I put it here. Thought I had it here, maybe not. Oh, we have a total of 11.5 retirees, 2 without long-term care insurance. So we have taken the approach, long-term care insurance caps, ours, Shoreline's caps at like $70-something thousand. North Shore's is a little bit less than that, I think, or I could look it up. It's about the same, but it's close to it. We look at long-term care, taking care of a certain amount of the dollars And then what is that extra per year that we would need to contribute? And this is all about long-term care. This isn't anything to do with our model. It has nothing to do with the medical insurance or, dental or meds, any of that. And so we look at it for 3 years, fully funded for all retirees, all at the same time. The biggest expense is when you don't have long-term care insurance, which can be anywhere from, the average is, Dawn looked it up the other day. The average, I think, is 12,000 a month. It's gone up from 10. I think it's around 12,000 a month average. I mean, so you have lower and you have higher. The highest I've heard is like 14, 15,000 a month. But fully funding all of our retirees for 3 years at the same time. And that's what we have done. North Shore has historically done the same thing using the GASB, but not computing long-term care insurance and including all the medical, the medications, medical, dental, all of that stuff too. And so it's been higher. So we have roughly about the same number of left one retirees, but I believe that North Shore is overfunding their left one liabilities, But it depends on what model you take. You could take, so for us, keep saying us, we're all us, but I mean, historically from Shoreline's standpoint, I'm looking at this as fully funding for 3 years. And the reason why they actually suggest in some of the language, if you look at the documents, they suggest 3 years. If we have all of our retirees all go in for more than 3 years, then we would be, bleeding money at the end of the 3 years. But what are the chances that everybody goes in all at the same time and everybody's there for 3 years? And we would see it coming at least 2, if not 3 years out. We would know that there's an impact coming that we need to, prepare for. So that's fundamentally how we have looked at it. I can't speak to the historical side from North Shore, except for what I've already shared, which is including everything in there with no long-term care insurance. And to Dawn's credit, she's just punching the numbers into the GASB, formula, and it spits out a number, and that's what's been budgeted. So between the two,
Chief, can I interrupt just for a quick second?
Yeah.
So historically different models for funding that.
Correct.
Do you have a sense of what a majority of other jurisdictions throughout Washington are doing? Let's not even Washington, but just like Puget Sound. What are the majority of other jurisdictions doing? Are they following the North Shore model? Or are they following the Shoreline model?
That's a great question, and I wish I had a good answer, but I don't. I have not looked at. I have not. The only one I can share with you is what we did in my previous department, but now it's 12 years ago now, and we weren't funding it anywhere near either of us. That we were underfunding it, in my opinion. Looking back at it now, we were putting some money aside, but without, just kind of willy-nilly, without any due process or diligence or thought. We were just putting some money aside into a reserve fund.
So is there someone
But I
maybe
could look.
at the state or that we could contact it? Because what I don't want to do, I want to trust that your model is right, but there's a reason that North Shore did it so conservatively. Sometimes we were conservative just because we wanted to be conservative.
Yeah.
And other times it made sense, right? So if we can find justification for making the transition and feel safe and confident in that transition, we're likely to approve that. More likely to approve. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I can try to do some research and find out what's going on, and I can reach out to the state and see and confirm that, some of these thought processes and all that. At the end of the day, how much money, so between the two of us, or between the two budgets, we have over $3 million sitting in a reserve for long-term care.
Yeah.
Long-term, and that's it. So that's $3 million, granted, as not saying I'm wishing this or anything like that, but as retirees pass away, that liability becomes less and less. And, but where do we feel comfortable? Is 3 million too much? Is it the right amount? Is it too little?
We're gonna
Yeah, it
need,
gets
we're gonna need data to support
Right.
where and why we feel comfortable,
Right.
right? So in the
So-
absence of it, we're just guessing. right?
So I put all of the North Shore employees into the same model, assuming that we're okay with, into the same model. And we could save, a little over $1 million. And if we were to, and that's with, the 3-year model, if we went to 4 years fully, I'm just throwing it out, it would be, that's another 400,000, so we would eat away, you know, it would be $600,000 of savings. And so forth. So, and I fully expect that this is a big decision.
Yeah.
Obviously, all these things are big decisions, but changing the model, you need to have, I totally agree, you need data, you need to understand what our approach is and what others' approaches are to make sure that you feel confident about that risk. And again, for our risk is, we're looking at if everybody for 3 years, what are the chances that that's gonna happen? And that's, I mean, and that's not very data, that's just kind of, you know, it's just a position. If we do all those things, these others are pretty straightforward, but this one's a big one, you know, of what model we do. That's almost $1.6 million in savings in the reserves. We could do a lot of things with that. I mean, we could put it back into capital on that, but if we wanted to buy down the rate, because I was just trying to play with the numbers. It's, if we drop the point, was it like 0.5 or something like that? Yeah, it's close. So. Yeah, 5.6 is what I sent in the email. We could drop all the way to $1.56 if we use the reserves to buy down the rate. I'm not saying that we have to do that again. That's a board decision, your board decision. We could put that money towards capital. We could do it towards the heavy rescue. We could do it towards some of the capital costs, you know, things that we're planning on. If we were to do what I've shown up here, we would have about 5.6 million in cash reserves, 2.1 million in benefits reserves, 3.3 in capital, and 14 million in I'm sorry, cash on, I'm sorry, this is the rainy day fund. And then so 5.6 for rainy day fund, benefits, capital, and then we'd have 14.3 million for cash on hand, which is about 25% of the annual plus $700,000. Which I think this is important for you guys, you know, to recognize too, is to like, where is our cash position with our different funds, reserves, etc. And that's with these things up here. Of course, you know, if all of a sudden we were like, okay, we're gonna keep it at $3 million and wipe that $1 million off, that affects, you know, the overall levy rate. I mean,
Wait, 14 million is a lot more than 25% of.
hey,
There's some areas that the air for the public.
oh, I'm sorry, can you open the door?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was
I wanna make
locked.
sure it's right.
Yeah, sorry, shouldn't be locked. Can you prop? Hey, Patrick, can you prop it too?
That's gone, yeah. So we just, once these people pass away, that did, yeah, you only know. Is that right, Reed?
What's that?
4 people are left one.
Hi there. We have 6.5, so there's 5 of them. I believe,
Because I thought there was 4.
yeah.
And then one of them. Was supposed to be, so.
One's already been on long-term care
Yes.
for a year and a half, 2 years, I think. Don was saying that that's how we know, you know, what some of these costs are now, and so forth.
But as these 4 or 5 people move on or pass on, then this whole category goes away, right?
Yeah, I mean, if everybody, if everybody passed away, then this would go to zero.
Yeah, but that could be 20, 30
Well,
levels to do it like that.
We have some late seventies, we have some eighties, and we have a 90. I mean, I'm not gonna say names.
No.
No, you don't have.
You know, but, I mean, so, the good news is that, all but two have long-term care, which takes a huge brunt of the risk.
And they have long care.
They have their own insurance.
Long-term, supplemental long-term care. And so,
That's,
unfortunately, we lost one this year already, and it was one of the ones that we had, didn't have long-term care. But so we have one and North Shore has one. And that's where your biggest risk is, because you're talking about potentially 12, 13, this is just for the long-term care, not meds and all that other stuff. So 12, 13,000, a month, that's 150,000 a year. So that's where your biggest risk is.
Do we fund the reserve differently for people that have the long-term care, or is it one flat rate for?
I compute it differently. I put it all into the same spreadsheet. And then, and I could show it to you. I'd have to protect the names, but it takes the long-term care in there. And if you don't have long-term care, there's no decrease. And it comes over and it summations all the different lines. And so the long-term care, there's no deduction, but for the people that do have long-term care, it caps out at 75,000 or in that neighborhood. And so anything between 75,000 and whatever that, 12 months of average, that's what shows up in that annual, and then I take everything times 3 for 3 years.
What would it cost for us to fund long-term care insurance for that?
I don't think, well, I think you have to be intentional about that early on before. I don't know, that I can find out. I don't,
Just interesting.
I don't know if we could, because they're already retired.
Right.
But I can ask the question. Okay, my notes. So I gotta do the other one too. Other. I think we looked at it a while, some years back. And we're told, yeah, you've missed the boat. From an insurance standpoint, because they're charging you upfront for the years where you're not older, not, healthier and not older, and then, if you're buying it for the people that are
1 year.
yeah, it's for the insurance companies, it's not a good return on investment, so they either charge you a huge amount of money, or they just won't do it.
Yeah.
So, but I can ask the question. I'm pretty positive what I just said though.
Yeah.
So I'd be very surprised if I found some other person. To your point, there is more than that 14 million includes some other cash, some others, if we were to pile in other reserves and so forth into that number. So you're absolutely right. But that includes at least 25% plus 700,000. So. But if Armageddon and we needed to tap, into money, this is what we have as a disposal. So if I zeroed it, let's just say we don't like that plan with, the 105.6, this 108. No. It's $1.10. It's around $1.10. So, a little bit less than $1.10. So a big part of buying it further down than the $1.11 is definitely with that level of liability if we were to change it, or somewhere in between. I mean, if we had more, at what point we have $8 million in there, is that, you know, what is our comfort level collectively? What is our comfort level? Is 2 million enough? Is 3 million enough? Is, you know, I mean,
Essentially,
3 million, I mean, let's just say it's $150,000, you know, a year for the two that are uninsured, that are not insured. Let's just say that's $300,000, because that's our biggest liability. You know, that's still almost 7 years. At 2 million, that's about 2.1 is, I think, what it's. I have it here somewhere. 2.1 was down here. 2.1, that's 7 years with both of them. I mean, and that's our biggest liability. I'm not saying that the others don't hurt, but they're far less. Instead of 150,000, you're talking about, you know, 30,000. That would be more than that, 60,000, something like that. So. I will try and get these answers though, but we need to be, I'm presenting all this, so I wasn't looking for an answer tonight or a decision. But so that you could, so this could percolate and you could think about it. And,
Generate discussion.
yeah, and so that you can come back and tell me, yeah, we like this idea, or no, we don't, and so forth. But again, this is a snapshot of how what we're looking at doing. I would expect that, you know, we'll know, we do June to June CPI for the Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue area, that CPIU for June to June. It's June to June, so I think it typically comes out in like later July. I think is when they post it. It's been and you can look it up. It fluctuates, you know, a bit, but I think it was. I'm thinking it's probably going to be between 3.5 and 5. Is if I was to guess. But it really fluctuates even, you know, month to month.
And in the shoreline contract, personnel get an automatic CPI adjustment.
We're in CBA negotiations right now. So I don't know, roughly.
Additionally, like,
Yeah, well, we've had sometimes less than CPI. If, you know, we look at comparable average, and if the comparable average is, we're high, which we are a little bit high right now by 0.8%, but that's, I don't have all the numbers in yet. And so, and we are in the middle of negotiations, so will depend on how negotiations go, but let's just say it's around CPI, and CPI is, you know, 3.5 to 4 to 5%. You know, AB, the King County forecaster, I think, was at 3% AB growth overall. But that's mostly Seattle. I think we usually do better than that. Obviously I don't have those numbers yet. But as we go through the rest of the summer, I'll start to get some of these numbers and dial in a bit more on this. And I'm going to start a budget process here in a couple of months. And then again, I'll, you know, hopefully know what CBA negotiations are doing. I'll know what CPI is. I'll start getting a feel for what AB is. But I needed to give you a snapshot of what it is today with 2024 budgets, 2024 AVs, you know, 2024, you know, revenues, you know, those things.
So Chief, are the reserve fundings, being in the budget meetings for the past couple of years, I've heard what's been said and stuff, but the rest of them don't know. The reserve fundings, we look at those every year, and those can be adjusted if needed, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just backing up to where I was at. Let's see, now come on. Why is it not? Didn't do it. Supposed to go back to. All right. It's not doing it. I could put the number back in. But yeah, that's absolutely correct. And that, you know, back to the left one liabilities, that's also why I think why Shoreline at least feels comfortable with the 3 years, because if we had everybody go in and start budgeting more, you know, if we saw it coming. It's also why I believe that, I don't know, maybe I don't think I'm being too aggressive, but if you start to see, you know, big costs coming, or big decreases, let's say AV doesn't go up by 3% this next year, it goes down by 10%. Okay, well, that's a hit, and we can adjust to that. And let's say it's starting to look worse and worse, you can start to prepare for those things. You don't replace, people that retire out, you don't replace attrition, you look at levels of service, you look at those savings, as long as you're thinking ahead, you can prepare for a lot of these things, and that's why we have reserves too, is to be able to tap into those and not have to, hit the taxpayers, for these things. You tap your reserves and then you make adjustments, to lower your expenses. And unfortunately, most of our expenses are in salary and benefits, so there's only a little bit that you can do, so, before you start getting the levels of service. And then you start making those decisions. Or you increase what we charge the taxpayers. The good news is that we have such a low equivalent levy rate. We have, if really it came down to it and the boards said, hey, you know what, we're not interested in dropping any rig or rounding out a station or whatever, we need to keep these levels of service. We have capacity. I don't want to go straight to impacting taxpayers. That's why you have proper reserves. Any other questions? There's a lot here, and I went through it fairly quickly, but
Chief, where's the BLS allocation, King County BLS allocation? Added in there.
that's this is, it's embedded here for North Shore and in here for Shoreline. Here, I'll show it to you. Yeah. So, this is our other. Whoops, sorry. From here down is our other. The 6.2 million. For us, BLS allocations, transports, fire marshal office permits, plans review. We have service contracts with these deployments, GMT. That's where all these other revenues are in. For North Shore, you have BLS transports, GMT, and your BLS allocation up here for that 1.6 million.
Okay.
Okay, those were our contracts. It was so tiny.
I'm sorry,
It's okay.
it gets busy, sorry, I
We're
could have zoomed
I
in.
figured it out.
So any other questions, or do you need, I mean, besides what you've already asked for, is there any other data that you need to see? Because I'm gonna try and answer these questions, and then I'm gonna pivot, to the capital for our next meeting. And try and address that side of the budget. Is there any other data or anything else that you need?
Not at this time for me. I've just started digging into this with your explanation, so
Yeah, and I tried to put some of the notes in there, but I realized like I could see that it's gonna be really hard to put. It would be like a 5.5 page, email to try and explain all this. And so I knew you'd stop at about 1.5. So, that's why I wanted to be able to explain this in person. So,
well, the numbers will get interesting once we get the CPI and
yeah,
AV
I mean,
to get a real feel for what
Yeah.
the real numbers are.
right.
This is based on today, which is cool, but with all the construction going on and things, the numbers will be different.
Yeah, and so in Shoreline, we're gonna see, who knows, I think our overall AV will probably be similar, because we seem to be similar.
To last year,
I've been tracking it for, the last 3 to 5 years or whatever. I think where the biggest difference will be, you'll see a lot more new construction here. And some in Kenmore, but, not nearly as much, and almost way less in Lake Forest Park. So how that plays out, we'll see. You know, but if you think about if we're doing AV, let's say AV goes up by 3%. And the COLA is 4%. So that means we're gonna have a difference that we're gonna, an increase in expenses. Because that drives 85% of the budget. So that's gonna be an increase in expenses that we'll have to cover. And just to complicate things more, we have the North Shore lid lift going on. This August. To reset the fire levy and the fire benefit charge. Now, we're gonna decrease the fire benefit charge. And increase the levy, and we're not looking at, actually, we're looking at apples, you know, not increasing the overall debt, but. We have to look at the COLA and AV before we finalize what that looks like. Right. Yeah, so. So yeah, there's about 5 or 6 different things that will move the needle on this quite a bit. But I feel, you know, overall financially, I feel very good about where both North Shore and Shoreline are. North Shore with the increased levy rate to address the capital costs, the capital things that we talked about. And it's painful right now. And it's still gonna be a little bit, it's still gonna stay high without RFA, without anything else. It's gonna stay high for 2025. And then by 2026, it'll start to taper off. I believe that's where we're at. But we've got decreased, we've got low equivalent levy rates. We're actually, our rates are very, North Shores especially, but both of our fire department rates are very low compared to other fire departments.
Right.
So that part's good. We've got good reserves. We've got good, I mean, financially, we're fine. We just need to figure out where comfort levels are, where we want, you know, and if we're gonna save money here, are we gonna reinvest it? Savings to the taxpayers, a combination of both, you know, that's a board decision. That's a philosophical decision that we'll have to make. But the equivalent levy rate should be less for both Shoreline and Lake Forest Park Kenwood. It'll be less than what it is now. Apples to apples before COLA and all that other stuff that I've already mentioned.
Right.
So I feel good about that. Okay. And any other questions before I stop sharing? On this, okay. Stop sharing.
I do have one question, Chief, and I don't think you had it on that. The impact mitigation fees, I know ours has to stay here in Shoreline.
Yes,
Does Kenmore have one?
no, and we've talked about this at a couple of times over the last couple of years. About potentially putting one on, but we have not done that as yet.
If there's growth there, that might be.
Yeah, Kenworth rezoned a good portion of the city along 522, the commercial corridor. Everything from like around City Hall to the east to the city line has been rezoned. I'm sure we could talk about this for the next 2 hours. You know, but and so help me if I'm missing anything. They're looking for higher density, regrowth, you know, and so forth. Similar to what has happened with the 145th and 185th rezoning that Shoreline went through. So now would be a good time, but I understand it'd take at least a year, I would think, to get it through. So you have to be thinking that it's at least a year out. Now, I think we should be looking at, I'm not too worried about like if, you know, Lake Point goes or something like that, because that would absolutely trigger mitigation. That'd be SEPA there'd be all sorts of processes. So I'm not worried about missing some of that, but I am, you know, potentially we could be looking at some of the other growth and capturing some of that and so forth. But we would have to partner with the city and do just like what we did here at Shoreline. And we were fortunate that we did it when we did it because we captured a lot of the growth that was going on and helped our taxpayers out by, you know, not having to have them, you know, pay for that, you know, mitigating those impacts. So it's something that I think we should be revisiting again at North Shore, you know, regardless of the RFA process, because you're absolutely right. The impact fees have to stay here in Shoreline.
Right.
You know, so it's not like it could be, we can take that money and pay for something, pay for Station 54, or something like that, that would,
Well,
but,
that's, yeah.
you know,
that's
but
what I-
impact fees down in Kenmore would have to stay in Kenmore too. It's not, it couldn't bleed
No.
over to Lake Forest Park either. It would have, it's
No.
specific to the geographical area, to the city.
Well, the one station that is demolished or is gonna be demolished, if you guys are planning on rebuilding there, impact mitigation.
Impact fees could definitely pay for, well, pay for, a good part of it.
And we're still, well, about 10 years.
Well,
So,
it's gonna take a year to get the impact fees going, at least a year.
well,
So, and then depending on growth,
yeah.
it would be.
And a lot of the impact fee formula relies also on projected growth
Right.
too. You may recall that 7 years ago, 8 years,
Is it good now?
7 years, it's been on. I wanted to do it immediately, but the city didn't have any impact fees at the time. And then it was like 2 or 3 years after they did it, then I was like, oh, you guys put transportation impact fees on it. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do fire impact fees now, because they were pushing me off. So I wanna say, I can look it up. I think I wanna say it's like 7, maybe 8 years. At least 7 years, I think. But the city, it took about a year and a half to get through the city, and get their support, and they have to sign that's who collects the impact fees. It is a city function, so Kenmore would have to sign off on this as part of the comprehensive plan and so forth. And there's a process for public review and committee review, and then proposals and public review, and then introduction into the comp plan and so forth. It's a process.
I know it is. Been there, done that. Okay,
So,
just throw that out there.
yeah. So, any other questions about the finance side? Okay. If something comes up and you want more data or dive into it deeper, you're like, whoa, what does this mean? Please let me know, because I'm gonna answer these couple of questions. I'm gonna pivot to the capital side for our next meeting. Okay.
All right, well, 5:45. Discussion of RFA names.
Okay, so after our last meeting, I told you I was gonna start asking around and maybe put out a survey and all that. I started asking around and I got a lot of, I was surprised. I got a lot of, and I was really trying to be sensitive to the Legacy North Shore personnel, and a lot of them were like, why change it? We're happy with Shoreline. Why would you do this? And I started thinking about it, and from a public standpoint, where the Shoreline Fire Department in an ILA would be the Shoreline Fire Department in an RFA, that would be easy for people to conceptually, understand. It would probably not cause confusion. And the biggest thing is that whatever name we come up with, if we are looking for the next steps in the future, I would hate to come up with a name that, doesn't, if Bothell is on board, which conceptually they are potentially, for the future, they're not committing to anything. They're certainly not in the conversation right now, but if they are, coming, in the near future, I would really want a name that everybody can embrace. And so I talked with Kim, as the chair. I said, hey, can I put a pause on this and have a further discussion at this meeting about how we want to approach this so that there's consensus? Because if we are looking to the future and Bothell wants to come on board and we pick a name like North King County Fire Department, and now you got not North, but the King County, and you got a good portion of Bothell and Snohomish County, does that alienate them? We could do Lake Shore, or we could do a lot of the names, and there's a bunch of them even in the agenda here, but we could do a lot of things that potentially wouldn't alienate them. But do we have to rebrand right now? Should we wait either to the point that Bothell says they want to look at doing something, or they say we're not interested in doing something, and then we rebrand at that point? What I really don't want to do is change names and then change names again, because it costs money and it's work and all this and that, and it's just and it causes chaos and it causes drama because people like the name, don't like the name. There's no way we're gonna make everybody happy, but. So I wanted to come back to this group and say, can we just keep it Shoreline Fire Department? Until Bothell says yes or no, and either way, even if it's no, we could, rebrand at that point. I don't know, maybe everybody's happy with Shoreline Fire Department, even Bothell. I would rather rebrand and I'd rather, make sure that we're encompassing everybody and not alienating. But
So would it be changed to like Shoreline Regional Fire?
no, well,
See there,
I am not this is the body vote. This is not me. I will, you know me. I'm gonna give you my opinion.
I know.
But I don't like ABC Regional Fire Authority. I like fire department, well, you can look at Valley Regional Fire Authority, VRFA is Valley Regional Fire Authority. But Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority is Puget Sound Fire. Did they? You don't have to be Regional Fire Authority. You don't have to have that in your name. You can rename it to whatever. We are a regional fire, assuming it passes everything. We're a regional fire authority, but that doesn't mean that it has to be in the name. We can be fire department. We could be fire and rescue. We could be
Just like
fire and life safety. We could be whatever we want to be. It doesn't have to be, a regional fire authority. It could be fire department, it could be anything you want. So.
just like now we're a fire district.
And again, my 2 cents is I prefer not to be regional fire authority. We can be fire department, fire and rescue. We can-
So noted. Thank you.
So include regional fire authority in the name.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard.
Uh,
That's why I just.
I thought, yes.
I'm for a survey because I think the survey will back up what I'm saying.
The ones that count.
Kidding aside, we could rebrand now, but the problem is that we potentially alienate. I don't know if we have to do it now. But I wanted to get some board direction on this.
Tyler, do you have an opinion?
I would say the sensitivity, and again, I want to say that I did go out to North Shore, Legacy North Shore people, and I'm not saying it was all of them, but I started talking it up. It's like, hey guys, we're moving along with the RFA and we're thinking about having to rebrand. Why would we rebrand? Did it? Would we like Shoreline? Did it? And I'm like, whoa, hey, calm down. And so I'm not saying that everybody's this way. I'm sure there's people that would love to rebrand. But I think it's the Legacy North Shore that really, I really want to hear what you guys have to say.
So Tyler?
I personally have zero hang up with it being Shoreline or North Shore or North Lake or any other names. As long as it's one name that people aren't upset about. I don't have a personal tie to the name. Shoreline is great. Everyone knows what Shoreline Fire is, and they have a pretty good legacy among other fire departments throughout the region. So continuing that name would be great.
That's a nice thing to say.
I don't, it would be, as far as the patch goes and stuff like that, like maybe take the District 4 off there. Would probably be about the only thing, if we were to keep the shoreline, that I would say would need to happen.
Well, that would be part of the rebrand. I would say, let's say we don't rebrand and then we move forward. And I'm not saying that everybody would be happy. Everybody wanted Shoreline Fire Department. We could still be Shoreline Fire Department, but have a new patch, and all that. Again, I think it would be good if Bothell came on. I think it would be good, to potentially rebrand. I love being Shoreline, don't get me wrong, I'm not pushing for that. But I think if we're really trying to be embracing and inclusive.
Well, the hard one with that is, so, Bothell doesn't have any shorelines, or they're not on
I know.
the lake, so you're.
Well, they have the
you're-
slough. They have the slough.
The slough. So I mean, the name isn't gonna necessarily encompass all regions of this area.
That's okay, I was joking, if we can Bothell, North Shore, and Shoreline, Bonage.
Oh, not fire.
All right.
Who knows?
Chief Cowan,
So all the
Commissioner
Bothell
Webster.
people, all the Bothell people could be happy with Shoreline too. I don't know.
I don't think that it's a big deal. I just looking at if we have to go to vote, how that our citizens will feel like they didn't have a say in it or anything like that. That's part of it. I threw out. But I see shoreline trucks come out of our fire department over there, it's shoreline as far as I'm concerned right now, so. And all patches, everybody works for shoreline, I don't see it as being an issue. And I think the point that you're saying, if we do become regional pickup awful, then we talk about rebranding. So, but I don't know, I think fire department.
Well, I've heard fire department in North King County. Right, I heard north of Seattle fire department. I was like, now that was just a joke, but.
Sure.
I'm comfortable, I'm with Chief, I don't want to rebrand, go through all that expense and then have to do it again. I think it makes sense to stay shoreline for now, our rigs are still tagged North Shore Fire, so I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, at some point in the future, let's plan and let's do it all at once, and do it one time. Right? And it doesn't bother me.
Okay,
Commissioner Callahan,
I'm for it.
for what? Waiting or, oh, shoreline.
Well, I think we ought to wait until Bothell decides. Like, then we go ahead and make a change, if we're gonna make the change.
Okay.
Instead of doing it twice in 6 months or
No.
a year.
I vote not doing it.
Well,
twice. We do
any,
it
any name
once.
change across the board is a very costly item. And the last thing you want to do is end up doing it twice in 18 months.
Yeah.
And that's why we would need to.
The people, now, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the people of North Shore have any objection to seeing shoreline on a rig in their house.
No.
Just like the people over here are now seeing on occasion North Shore rigs. It's not a problem.
We actually had Kirk.
When I call, I don't much care what the rig says,
Just so
but-
long as you show
or
up.
what's on their shoulders, but I want the care that we're able to give. And so just from a totally dollar and cent standpoint, I'd like to see us just hang tight until we get a definitive answer from Bothell and then decide to make a change if we might have to then, but for now, I'm in favor of just carry on like we are.
Shoreline Regional Authority Fire it is. Next.
thank you.
What else is on the schedule here?
And we could brand it Surfa, just to confuse things a little bit more. You seen?
Amy, hi.
Hi. Just for clarification for the minutes, I am following, but I just want to make sure. So the proposed name is Shoreline Fire Department.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'll pay you later.
It's supposed to be fire.
Thanks, I think this is a good step forward to try and, figure out, what the future looks like and make sure that we're inclusive with everybody at that.
Okay. Planning for soliciting for public comment. I did notice on the website that you do have a place now for
Right.
the RFA. I didn't see any place for comment, but you put the background
Yeah.
information on there.
So my next step, I've reached out, in fact, I'm gonna be addressing the Kenmore City Council on July 17th, July, whatever, I think it's July 17th. I'm gonna be addressing the Kenmore City Council in July. And be briefing them on the progress and all that, but I'm hoping that later this week or by the beginning of next week at the latest, I have developed the FAQ that I talked about. And then also, I don't know if it's possible to put questions on. I don't think you can submit questions to the website, but I'm gonna have, if you have any questions, please email me and I will put them onto the website as as I get them. And then I think one of our big steps too is to start soliciting for public input and so forth as I don't know, Brian can probably, I need to go through the template. I think we're getting a lot of things knocked out. And then start soliciting input and see what questions we're not thinking about or need to get answered. So, we've got the page set up on the website, and I put the background and needs statement there. My next thing is the FAQ, and to put a blurb on there about solicit, asking questions. And I was also gonna put our calendar out there too, in case, people haven't gotten the word, so that they can come, so.
We got,
People come.
our information people, can they get anything in our local newspapers and stuff?
But we are gonna plan on, putting out some stories in there and too. Actually, Shoreline Area News put out a little blurb just recently, and so, engaging with them more. And it's the Bothell Kenmore report. What is the Kenmore? It's the reporter. What's the paper?
Yeah, I think it's awful.
Bothell Kenmore Reporter or Bothell Reporter.
And also the city of Kenmore does a quarterly.
And we could put something on their website too, potentially, if,
And that wouldn't be,
So-
I don't know what Lake Forest Park does, but I think they have some sort of.
So, I've been engaged with Robert and Lindsay, at Kenmore. And then I was, is it Philippa Castleberg? She was, part of the, Lid Lift committee. I was gonna engage with her. And because she seems pretty well connected in Lake Forest Park, to get that word out.
She's a great asset if you can win her over and have her on your side. She was very instrumental with the process for moving the contract for service for Shoreline.
I remember because I was, watching that and some of that, and she has some really good questions. And so, yeah, I would like to engage with her, and then I think we're getting close to at least getting the plan done, except for, we gotta finish the budget, idea, and then the capital budget, and start getting some of the ordinance documents.
I think giving the city councils a heads up. And then once we have our plan in place, got reasonable understanding of the financial situation, then we can go before them and give a presentation, have them ask questions. It'd be good to have you and probably, one member from each of the existing boards attend that.
Right. So
What
that,
about Charlotte, city of Charlotte, did they have any? This affects them too.
It does. We had a meeting at the beginning of the month with them and Matt explained what they were doing. Their main concern was Station 62. Because it's in their backyard, excuse me.
so.
They really didn't have anything to say. It was kind of like, yeah, okay.
So the good news is, because I think the financial piece is a really big one for everybody to make sure that, they feel good about what the impacts are with the savings or whatever it's gonna be. So you're gonna laugh. I just looked it up. It is July 15th, so we have our RFA meeting July 15th. I have to leave here to be at Woodway by 6, so that's gonna be a shorter meeting for me at least. You guys can continue to talk. And then I leave that one to go to Kenmore.
Go to New York.
So I'm doing 3. I
You'll
got
be in
3.
Kenmore already, so that's good.
Yeah,
Oh,
Meeting over there next
That's
time.
right. That's right.
do we,
I gotta go from there all the way to Woodway. Maybe I'll do that remotely. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is that we'll have the RFA meeting if we can, finalize the budget stuff. Then I can present to the council and say, this is what we think it's gonna be, later that night even. And if you guys are comfortable with it, and if we're not comfortable, then I won't, but
I would say not to rush that. I think that it's good to have that information, but then let's have our plan.
the full
Like,
package.
here's the package, and we're gonna go before them in August or September. In anticipation of putting on the ballot, in February. So
That's actually good, yeah, instead of
we have
rush.
all of our Ts crossed, all our Is dotted,
It's a
everything
good
is,
point.
secure. We've
Yeah.
been able to communicate out to the balance of
I just-
our boards, likewise for Shoreline.
I agree with that.
yeah, we're-
No, that's pretty wise. I just want to get all the information out there, but I think making sure that we have a complete package is.
Don't put something out.
Instead of
back
missing
and forth.
things, instead of putting this piece out and then
It doesn't have
another
to be
piece and then
revised.
another piece.
Have it right when you put it out.
And the worst thing we can do is have something be revised 3 meetings in a row or something.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Okay. And revisit election timeline. Oh, Amy, sorry.
It's sort of tied to the timeline, but are we required to have a public hearing as this process? And that's more of a question for Mr. Snur.
And the answer is no, you're not required to have a public hearing. You're required to make efforts to have public input. Public hearings, one way of doing that seems to check a box, but you're not required to have a hearing.
Thank you.
I think we have our package ready to go in August or even early September. That gives us multiple months to solicit public input. We can have an open house if we want or not, but it gives us that window of time to get the input that we need.
Yeah, I think,
Reassure the public and
I mean, unless we hit a real pitfall, we're gonna be done with the plan here in the next couple of months, hopefully. And we'll have 5, 6, 7 months before, I mean, we'll have plenty of time to get more public engagement and get the word out. To make sure everybody has an opportunity to give their perspective and to educate and inform, so.
So as far as our timeline goes, are we projecting February ballot still?
That's what I would really push for,
If all goes
yeah.
according to.
And, with if we go February, as soon as it's certified, we could go March 1st or April 1st for official indoctrination.
You'll have all that.
Well, we'll have-
Administrative part of it done.
Yeah, we'll have, Brian can have everything, prepared, assuming that we pass, kind of thing.
That pretty much concludes everything for tonight. Unless anybody else has anything they want to talk about. No? Okay, looking forward, we're doing the capital budget on July 15th, Chief. Okay, and then we have a meeting scheduled.
What's that?
I'm
I'm sorry. Body language.
Yeah, I got that. That's why I stopped. And then we have a meeting scheduled August 19th. Our September meeting falls on our NAFO conference.
Okay.
And I think some of you are going to NAFO. I know Rod and I are going.
Okay,
So we're gonna have to, if we.
We may not need it too.
we may not need it,
Yeah.
but, I guess, let's make sure that on the August meeting that we either reschedule it or cancel it or whatever.
That's your Las Vegas trip.
Yeah, aren't you going to?
I don't know yet.
Like,
Probably
the
be-
Commissioner Bullen too.
probably be down California.
Yeah. We could move it down to the 23rd if we have to.
Well, let's. Amy, did you have a question again?
No, I was just gonna say it'd be nice to sort of know what the next discussion topics will be for the July meeting.
It was a capital budget.
Well, and I'd say the overall financing and the capital,
Okay, overall financing and capital,
Yeah.
including capital.
maybe I'll have CPI.
Just for the sure.
It's pretty early, but
It'll probably be pretty early and, and I won't have the COLA, even if I have CPI, I won't know what the COLA is entirely until the negotiations are done. But it'll probably be close to CPI. I'll probably have an idea by then.
okay. Anybody have anything else? It is 6:09. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
But you said that.
Rod Nevlin,
Second.
who seconded? Tyler? Commissioner Heveland and Commissioner Bowers. Meeting adjourned.